if you scan the brain of someone with ROCD, the part of the brain that lights up is the same, like if you were burdened with hot coffee, that you need attention like right away, is exactly the same. Guilt, shame, and anxiety, it's the real pain.
Welcome to Reclamation, a Be Emboldened initiative. I am Noami, the founder and executive director here at BE, and we exist for people who have been impacted by spiritual abuse. And we do this by providing support for the prevention of victimization as well as re-victimization. We create a place where people can ask the hard questions and they can begin to heal and to rebuild in their own journey. Today, we have Allie as our special guest, and she is a graduate in clinical psychology and a master in sexology and couples therapy. She did her professional practice in the juvenile prison of Costa Rica and worked with sexual, physical, and homicidal offenders. She currently lives in Israel and provides private consultations virtually, as well as works in a nonprofit organization to provide, through a team of theologians and psychologists, tools in human development through talks, workshops, and personalized attention. She loves creating and learning and is always seeing how she can explain what she knows in a simple way for others. Allie has presented on family and leadership at seminars, family and business conferences, and within radio and television media, adding value to the mental health of the general population. She also has her own podcast where she focuses on talking about topics related to mental health. So with that, Allie is here to talk with us about religious obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as scrupulosity. And Allie, I want to begin by asking how you got interested in this area to begin with.
Well, Naomi, thank you for having me here. I'm very pleased with this opportunity. And I became interested in this specific topic through my work as a clinical psychologist. I saw over the time treating patients with regular OCD that many of them were having issues with ROCD specifically. And one of my favorite Bible verses is Proverbs 23:7. In Spanish is, lo que usted piensa, usted es. In English is, for as he thinketh in his heart, so he is. And I see that people with ROCD are believing lies. So I became very interested in helping them discover the truth of knowing God in a free way, not like in a punishment way. So that's how I became interested, having patients dealing with this issue.
Yeah. And I have 5 follow-up questions just from you saying that. So to begin, will you describe for people what it is? So when we're talking about ROCD, religious obsessive compulsive disorder, what actually is it?
Yeah, what a creative name. That is a very long name. I will call it ROCD because it's a very long name. Mm-hmm. And we also know that as scrupulosity. And scrupulosity is a subtype of the regular OCD that you might have seen in movies, where the main problem or disorder is based on obsessions and compulsions that revolved around religious, moral, and ethical themes. So someone with this disorder is fighting their brain against a thought that it's very strong and became intrusive. So, scrupulosity was observed in the 1600s in the Catholic Church. The leadership noticed that the monks, they were being prepared to become priests, they were doing these repetitive and compulsive prayers, not out of love, but actually because they wanted it to achieve this unrealistic state of holiness. So the term scrupulosity came from the observations of those behaviors back in the 1600s, that we can say that they discovered OCD. And the word scrupulosity comes from a Latin word that it's scrupulum, which means a sharp stone. So just think about it. It feels like a pebble in your shoe that you can get rid of, but it's in your brain. So people with this affection, they become religious and morally obsessed about this thought that they're having that creates a lot of anxiety. So they're in constant fear that they're going to be punished by their God because of the thoughts they're having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it was really interesting when I first came across this, which wasn't that long ago. I think I first heard about this maybe only a year ago, which is really interesting. I mean, having a master's and having like this didn't come up in any of the training that I had. And I mean, not OCD did, of course, but not this religious, category of it. And I absolutely struggled with this when I was a little girl. So I probably would have been, gosh, and I don't know at what age they would even have diagnosed this, because I did end up, I don't know if I would say I grew out of it so much as my environment changed. And that enabled me to also kind of move forward from these behaviors. But one example I had, and I know that this is going to sound so wacky, and I feel I'm a little uncomfy. I know I share a lot about myself, but it is a little uncomfortable to share this. I had this thing where when I would rip the toilet paper,
Yeah.
it couldn't rip the other square. Like it had to be a clean tear. It couldn't it ripped into the next square. So I'd have to pull it off. And I had to do that anytime I used the restroom, or I was fearful I would get punished. It was a religious connection. Now, I grew up in such a volatile household and with such a doomsday, view of God, like all fire and brimstone. And so I would have, that's one behavior I think of. There were others, but I had these different things that I would have to do in hopes of keeping myself safe. I believe that, that would keep demons away. That would keep, whatever it may look like. This is going to help protect me and keep me safe. These behaviors.
Yeah, it might sound not logical, but that's what people do. The people that are struggling with this, it might sound like, what is this? But I need to do it because it's a way to ease this anxiety that I'm feeling. So it's difficult to share with others because what are they going to think about me?
Right. Yeah, it's vulnerable. It feels embarrassing.
Yeah.
And yet there's something very real going on. And I'm wondering if you're able to share a bit more about that. What is going on and how else can it present in someone's life? So I know I just gave my example, but what else have you seen that you're able to share with us?
Mm-hmm. This is such an important question because we need to differentiate between two people, like a devout person that is living out of a specific standard that they created for them, but the motivation is love. They're happy, they feel satisfaction living this specific standard, right? They love being disciplined, or they love having these standards in their lives. They're not afraid. They're happy. That's a devout person. But someone with ROCD is someone they're fighting constantly with their brain. Their thoughts are very scary. And they need to kill the anxiety that they're feeling with these compulsive behaviors. So, for example, I had a patient that he was very obsessed with the thought of committing the unforgivable sin. So he thought that he already committed that sin. So I was telling him, in one of our sessions, Jesus is love. Can you say that? And he's like, yes, Jesus is love, right? But then that simple conversation made him, just when he was alone and he was having these thoughts in his brain, he will say, Jesus is love, Jesus is love, Jesus is love, Jesus is love, like 20 times, just to make sure that Jesus was there with them, So you see them engaging in these rituals of constant confessing, or rituals of purification, constantly asking people like what they think about this specific subject, or they become fixated on sin, like what is sin? And everything revolves around sin. And they're doing, they keep checking and checking and checking if they are doing the right thing. Am I good enough? Good enough neighbor? Good enough son? Good enough representation of Jesus on earth? Am I a good dad? A good husband? So it's very obsessive. It's very sad. It's exhaustive religious rituals that they start performing just like to ease that anxiety. They can feel paralyzed by the fear of making these religious mistakes. Sometimes they have difficulties in their personal, professional relationships, or even among their friends at church. They can become really judgmental. Look, are you reading that book? That's a sin. Are you listening to that music? That's a sin. Everything becomes very confusing as well in their daily lives.
Mm. You reminded me as you were speaking of another one that I had where, and I want to share this because I'm wondering if this will connect with anyone who watches or listens later. It was a combination of reminding myself, kind of like what the gentleman was doing when you spoke of him, how he would say that. It's like, well, what he was saying was true, but it was that obsessive way of doing it. And I would sing, as a child, I would sing Jesus Loves Me, that song. And
Mm-hmm.
it would remind me that Jesus loved me, but there was also this connection with, I need to sing it to myself at bedtime in order for him to be here and keep me safe through the night. Which of course is not actually what we believe. He's everywhere and he's always with us. He's with us, and if we've accepted him as our Lord and Savior, he's also within us through the Spirit. And so theologically it gets all messy and it's not actually what the Bible tells us. So I'm kind of curious when I think about the kind of environment I grew up in versus, maybe someone who had a different kind of environment. Maybe they were in a much healthier environment growing up. Do we have any information or do you have any sense of how much environment plays into someone developing ROCD versus how much maybe is something else mental health related that might be going on, whether it be chemical or something along those lines?
Mm-hmm. Your faith upbringing is not the main or the only reason, but it does have an influence, like the environment that you grew up with. Even like if you were raised as a Baptist, in the Baptist environment, or the Pentecostal or Reform or Catholic or legalism, all that, it does play a role on developing OCD. And, but it's not the only reason. And it's not the main reason either.
Okay.
It's just
And
part of the reason.
got it. Yeah. So do you mind sharing a bit more of how, like what the main reason would be, how that someone ends up with this diagnosis? Again, if we
Yeah.
know, because I know we're still learning a lot too. So,
Yes, we're learning a lot about it because, as you were saying, it's not something that people speak freely about it. We know that 2% of the world's population is affected with OCD. And the journal of obsessive compulsive related disorders says that morality is the fifth most common obsessive theme. So, it's very important. It has to do with personality. It has to do with your faith upbringing. It has to do with the way you understand your environment as well. Because, you can have two people sitting down receiving a lecture, and depending on the way you understand it is the way you're going to apply it, right? And you can have one people explaining a topic, and you have two people sitting there listening to that. And if you ask them, it affected their view of the topic very differently because of your experience, because of your knowledge, and also your interest. There's probably some things that you don't really care about, but there are others that, it calls your attention. Mm-hmm.
It's so interesting because, there's all these different factors that come into play. And even thinking about, I haven't asked my brother if he had anything similar as a kid, which I'm actually curious to see if he did. But he and I we're very different in ways. And so I was very much wanting to please, and he was more just doing whatever and getting in trouble because he just wasn't as focused on that. And so, I could see where just even the same environment, while unhealthy for both of us, could impact us differently. And I've heard it's so funny whenever we I don't know if you have this happen to you, but whenever I start learning about something new, it seems like I see it pop up more and I have to be like, well, wait, is it just because it's on my mind? Or why is this popping up more? But I just had a podcast interview with someone last week. I don't know what episode's dropping when, but Tracy Bowen shared that for anyone who wants to go listen. She shared that she became, it wasn't like the ROCD, but OCD about keeping her floors clean. And she said to the point where she would be vacuuming under her husband while he was eating. Like it was to that point, where she couldn't let one crumb be on the floor. And she said it really seemed for her like it came out of being in such a legalistic environment growing up, just always having to be so careful. And then as that environment has changed for her, she has also been able to let some of those things go. And so I'm really I see this as being just so important to bring to people's attention. I just have a feeling this is going to resonate with a lot of people that don't have language for what's going on. And like you've said, they don't necessarily want to say it because how are people going to look at them?
That's totally true. Because, a lot of our OCD, what they're thinking, it has to do with a lot of topics that are taboo. So it's not easy to talk. And it's not something that you're going to bring to the dinner table, right? So in that sense, it's important to speak about it because a lot of people find relief when they say, oh, what I have has a name. Someone knows what's going on with me. It doesn't mean that it's cured, but understanding that, oh, this is something and it has a name and there's people that can help me brings a lot of hope.
Mm. Yeah, that sense of I'm not the only one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How can religious OCD impact someone's relationship with God and the church? How can you see this intersecting?
I can see this in many ways. I think that the first one is someone with this disorder, they distance from God because they often experience these intrusive thoughts and obsessive thoughts that it makes them feel as if they have committed, for example, the unforgivable sin. So they feel unworthiness Like I'm not worthy of God because he's holy, he is perfect, and I'm not, which can be deeply distressing for someone with strong religious beliefs, right? Also, they develop, as I was telling you, these excessive rituals, and the rituals can, and in many times they do, consume significant amount of time and energy. So it really makes it very difficult to participate in community, in worship, in fellowship, because they're not enjoying this. Like it's like becomes like work, and you don't want to do that. And also, you were saying something, and I see this in my patients. They have a lot of religious guilt. They live with the guilt of everything. Even if I don't say hi smiling, I'm not representing God in a good way. And so their actions they're afraid that they're going to receive divine punishment, right? Like God is upset with me, he's going to punish me. They stop reading the Bible many times. People with ROCD have a problem with the Bible because the way that they understand the Word of God is distorted. So, for example, the Bible verse that says, Jesus said that if you want to be my friend, you have to do what I say. So am I doing what Jesus said? No. So I'm going to stop reading the Bible because it's just a big burden, something else that I have to do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, this is big. I mean, this really, really impacts people's lives. Like you're saying, their day-to-day functioning, the burden that they're carrying of these rituals that they have, as well as that just emotional and psychological weight of not only what they've got to keep up with in their day, but what it means if they don't. And I don't know that I've heard someone share that they ever really felt at peace even when they did do all the things. Like there's still
Oh, yeah,
this,
no.
yeah, there's still this, well, but it wasn't enough, or maybe I didn't do it right, or I didn't do it enough, or there definitely is not a sense of rest in our salvation.
No. Let me explain like the cycle of religious OCD, how it grows.
Yeah.
So you have an intrusive thought. Any intrusive thought can become an obsession. Okay? And we all have them. We all have intrusive thoughts. But someone that develops this, what happens is that they have an intrusive thought. Like, for example, it's a sin to do my nails. Is that a sin? Like it comes to you're sitting there watching TV and that comes to your brain. So you have doubt and uncertainty, and you start feeling fear. Is this a sin? Am I sinning? So what do? You ask Google, because now that's what we do. You go to Google and you start asking, like, is painting your nails or doing your nails a sin? And you start reading and watching videos, and there's a lot of information on the internet. That's the compulsion. Okay, so the intrusive thought became an obsession, and the online search, you going online and searching, becomes the compulsion, right? Some people will find a temporary relief. Like, oh no, okay, someone that you trust was talking about it on a video, and it says that now it's not a sin. So, okay. But not really. The fear continues. So you make a promise, and which is another compulsion. Like, I'll never do my nails again. And that brings temporary relief, but not really, because then the intrusive thought is start to expand. Look, oh, I have a wedding next week. How am I not going to do my nails? Now, what do I do? So I'm going to go and read the Bible, but reading the Bible becomes distorted. So that brings confusion. And confusion start bringing out, remember that someone with ROCD probably has a lot of problem with perfectionism and control. You need to have everything under control because OCD demands an answer. So your anxiety increases and you start with constant questioning. Okay, but what if? But what if? And you might ask me and I'll give you an answer, but you don't really want to listen to my answer. You're ready for the next question, and next question, next question. So that's the cycle. So they are following a compulsion out of fear based on a thought that became an obsession, even if it's not logical. This is how it works. I don't know if I explain it in a
Oh,
easy way.
yes, that was great. And that makes sense. And so, like you said, maybe some people get some relief after they've done some research, but I've seen people then they'll just cycle back. Like maybe their relief lasts just for a few hours. Maybe I've seen it last for an extended period, but inevitably it's going to cycle back because, as you're saying, that's not really the problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So does does this sound like torture to you? Like it sounds to me like this awful form of just being tortured in your own mind.
100%. Yes, it's a torment. It's a torment every single day. Yeah, people is really suffering from this. Like there's actual pain. Like if you scan the brain of someone with our OCD, the part of the brain that lights up is the same. Like if you were burdened with hot coffee, that you need attention like right away, is exactly
Yeah.
the same. Guilt, shame, and anxiety, it's the real pain.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that. Wow. So it actually lights up in the same way. Yeah. That speaks to how it's intangible in comparison to being burned, but it's going to feel like it is tangible. It's going to feel like there's something physically
Yes,
actually happening.
exactly.
Mm.
Mhm.
How do you see we mentioned already how this can impact someone's like relationship with God and the church. How do you think it impacts their own identity with Christ? Like their own sense of who I am in the
Mhm.
Lord?
Well, it endangers the sense of identity, because the intrusive thoughts that um, make them question the relationship with God, whether um, it, they struggle with they are worthy of being considered children of God, right? It's very heavy on them. Like, I'm not worthy of being called a children of God, a child of God. No, that's no. They struggle with reconciling their beliefs too. It's very difficult because um, there is a significant tension between the relationship with God and the sense of identity in Christ, right? Because these standards are so difficult to perform that I believe in this, but I can't achieve them, right? It's like, I know this is the truth, but I can't perform that. So it's very difficult. And something very crucial that I've seen is that they need a spiritual support, but they only want to seek for help among the framework of their faith. So only within the religious leaders or spiritual counselors, but they feel very ashamed or they feel guilty if they need to go and get help from a professional or a doctor, because you think that you need to resolve this within your faith community.
Wow, what a barrier because I don't know that someone within the church, like a pastor or even pastoral care person would have any idea how to really help. It seems like they would do more of that temporary fix where someone might feel better for a minute, but they're not going to know how to do this. And I would never expect them to.
Exactly. Exactly. Or sometimes it just make it worse.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what recommendations do you have for someone who's listening and thinking, oh my gosh, this sounds like me?
Okay, the first thing that I will say is please, 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 please don't diagnose yourself out of a podcast, out of the internet, out of a book. Please don't do that. Even though you made all the check marks, right? Like, oh yes, I have this page and check, 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 check. You need to seek professional support. The most important step is to seek for help from a mental health professional, a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist who understands the religious dimensions of your struggle. Because, we have different techniques that we can teach you to get out of this and to understand what's going on within you. Something very important as well is that this is not one day cure. Like, you come today and tomorrow you're cured. It doesn't work like that. And getting better in religious OCD has to do with accepting uncertainty. That is really what this is about. And someone that says, okay, this is me, will get to a point after getting help to say, I don't know, and I'm going to keep living. And accepting I don't know for someone with OCD is very difficult because I was telling you, OCD demands an answer and an answer now. And we teach people how to use their faith and their values towards them and not against them. But this is not an overnight cure. And you need to also talk to someone. Naomi, I think this is very important that you talk to someone that you trust about your concerns. Just talk to that close friend, to a family member, or a trusted religious leader that can listen to you. And just talk about your thoughts, your feelings. Sometimes just talking about it start bringing a little bit of relief towards seeking for help. And sometimes I have people that say, I don't have anyone to talk to. So what I always recommend is start journaling about it, start writing about it, and then read it out loud to yourself. Go in front of a mirror and grab that piece of paper and read it out loud. That's something that you might think, oh, it's nothing, but it's a very huge first step into recovery. Something that is very important as well is to learn about our OCD. It's educate yourself, not on your compulsions, right? Not on your obsessive thoughts, but learn about what this is, how it manifests in you. What are the triggers that you are seeing are happening in your daily life? And there are very valuable information out there, like online resources, books, support groups. And so start learning about it. It's very important as well. What else can I say? Practice self-acceptance, accepting that you're dealing with this, that you're dealing with a mental health condition, and that you're not to blame for this. It's something that is happening to you. For example, if you have pain in one of your tooth, you're going to the dentist to see what's going on. You're going to say, oh, I did this and that. No, you're going to get some help. Also, This is very difficult for people with ROCD, but you need to avoid compulsive rituals. You need to make a conscious effort to stop doing that, to start breaking the cycle, right? Like feeding the obsession. So you can acknowledge that it's there. Oh, this is my intrusive thought right here, but I'm not going to pay attention. And let me give you like a quick example about it. It's like when you go to Christmas dinner party and you're sitting at a table and there's someone there that you don't really like. So you can acknowledge that that person is there, but you are not going to engage in a conversation with that person. You're going to talk to the person sitting next to you that is a friend, that is someone that you know, or maybe someone that you want to know. So it's exactly the same. Like, you know that the distortion is there, but you are not going to engage with that. You're going to put it aside. Say, okay, it's there. I'm not doing this today. And I'm going to learn to handle the fear I'm feeling of this. The pain that I'm feeling is not going to last forever. Emotions go up and then go down. So just hanging there a little bit. I know it doesn't feel right. I know you want to run. Just stay, breathe, stay calm. It will pass. And then you can talk to someone about it. And also take care of your overall well-being. If you want to get better, you have to rest well, regular exercise, nutrition, stay hydrated, like the basic stuff for maintaining an overall well-being will help you to go and take care of your mental health. So you don't have to fix a lot of other things on top of the mental health issue, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it does. I am remembering, gosh, it would have been my early 20s because I remember it coming up for sure after my dad passed away and I was 21 when that happened. I can't remember if it happened after my mom or not, but for sure after my dad passed away. So those behaviors had stopped, but I remember it coming back up in my mind at that time. Now, he was our prophet. So him dying was a really big deal. I mean, it was like the spiritual person. And I was taught he wasn't supposed to die. So just to fill you in a little bit. So him dying was like, this isn't supposed to be able to happen. And so those thoughts started coming back again, those intrusive thoughts of like, do this, do that. And I remember I had enough years of it not being a thing. I'd had a few years at that point of it not being a thing that I basically was like, no, I'm not going to do this again. Like, I'm not starting this again. And so basically did what you said of kind of starving it, being like, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was hard to do, but it was very empowering to do and
Yes.
really helped me in my journey of recognizing that those behaviors weren't accomplishing what really truly had already been accomplished by Jesus on the cross anyway. But it helped me start to see no, stuff still happens. Some stuff happens and some stuff doesn't happen, and it's not actually connected, to these behaviors. And so it was helpful learning for me at that time. Now, I'm not saying that that would be what it takes for everybody out there. Like
Yeah.
you said, Allie, everyone needs to see a professional and they need to. And I don't know if I would have fit all the clinical criteria or not, especially starting at such a young age that might not have even been diagnosed or anything. But just having some familiarity of what some of this can feel like, whether it would have fully fit the diagnosis or not. But I also really appreciated what you said about how people at the church could by accident make it worse. Okay, we're not trying to, throw mud at the church by any means. We love the church. Sometimes the church gets brought things that they're asked to help with and they're not really equipped to do it and they might not even know necessarily they're not equipped to do it. Sometimes it's totally innocent. I did have a story, or I've had a couple of stories of people sharing that they were, counseled by someone at the church, one of the pastors, and were essentially told, kind of like you're spitting on the cross, like you're not accepting grace, you're not, basically like you're just really not in alignment. And that's like the worst thing for them to be told, right? Because they're already not feeling good enough. They're already not resting in their identity, individuals who have ROCD. And so like it totally made it worse. Um, and so if we're talking to anyone who's just a part of the church, whether they're in a leadership role or maybe they're just, known in the congregation, they're interacting with their brothers and sisters. How do you think the church can support individuals well who are struggling with religious OCD?
I think that the church has a big role on it. And the church can be a huge place of understanding and being like that first piece of redirecting people to getting help and all that. Because I can't remember the name of the book, but there's a statistic that says that people with mental health affections or even physical health, once like you receive a diagnosis or something like that, the first place they go to look for help, it's at church. So of course we don't need to be professionals at church, but we can offer education and awareness to the people that is giving counseling or to the pastors or whomever is involved with people, right? In a leadership role, we can provide education and awareness of anxiety disorders related to religion, because this is true, this is happening. So if we as a religious organization, we need to know this, like people is suffering from this. So informing leaders, like what is the name, what are the symptoms. For example, if you have someone that you work with and you see that they are repeating these rituals over and over and over, it's like, this may be something happening with this person, right? Create a supportive environment that people can have safe conversations with their struggles in their lives. It's very important, because the church can foster compassion, empathy, and avoid stigma, judgment, or as you were saying, oh no, you are not understanding the grace of God. Yes, they're not. That's why they need help, right? But don't
Right.
say it in a way that is going to make him feel worse than he's already feeling or she's already feeling, right? Something that you can do as a church, like you can have a list of mental health professionals that you can refer to that that understand mental health issues and that understand the Bible. So this is a lot easier for someone that came to church looking for help. And yes, you're going to pray for that person and you're going to listen to them, but they can leave also with an extra step to do, like, what's my next step? Okay, I'm going to look for help with this person that the church is recommending, right? Promote open dialogue, like let people make any kind of questions they need to make without being reprimanded for the question they're asking, and reduce stigma or everything related with mental health needs to be open, and the people can ask for help, and it's okay. For example, if you come to me and you're telling me, I started eating and now every time I eat, my stomach hurts. And then I was vomiting the other day. And one day I saw kind of blood in there. I'm not going to say, oh no, you're not praying enough. You have to fast more. I'm going to say, have you seen a doctor? Is there anything wrong with you? Was it something you ate? Is this the first time this happens to you? I'm going to encourage you to look for a doctor. So we can do that with mental health issues as well in church.
I think that general perspective change stands out to me of what you're speaking to. Like, instead of when someone comes to us and thinking, especially if we've had a couple conversations, and maybe not you and I, because the profession that we're in, but say just lay person where this isn't an area of expertise, and someone comes and you talk it through with them, and then they're right back to where they were, and you talk it through with them again, and then they're right back to where they were. And I can see where the person who's trying to help may feel frustrated. And then what they might accidentally do is start to blame it on the person who's looking for help. Like, well, you're just not doing something, or you're just not being something, or you're just not accepting something. When in reality, no, there's something else going on. And so having that kindness and being willing to come alongside and see, okay, this feels frustrating to me. Why does it feel frustrating to me? Well, it's because I'm trying to help and it's not working. But this isn't about me. So if what I'm doing isn't working, maybe this person needs something else or someone else, and let me connect them.
Yes, 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 yes. OCD comes from lack of nurture in relational safety. So a way that the church can help someone with this disorder is show them kindness, be kind to them, be compassion towards the struggle that they are going through, because it's real. As I was telling you, it's real pain. Like if you are at church playing soccer after a service and someone break their leg, you're not going to say, oh, okay, keep playing. No, you're going to stop. We're going to call the doctor, take him to the emergency room, and probably he's going to get a cast. So we need to understand that the struggle is real, and we need to show them the love of God, because they don't understand the love of God, and they don't understand grace. They don't. So we need to be very compassionate. And as we say here in Israel, sablanut, which is patience. Sablanut. Like when you're going to learn Hebrew, you need sablanut, patience, because it's going to take some time. So someone with OCD, you need patience, love, and show mercy and compassion to their struggle.